Okay, so since no one's here, I'll just answer your question then. There are close to 30 million Chinese Muslims, yes. And whether we are able to practice Islam properly, I'm not sure what you mean by properly, but if you mean freely, for the most part, yeah. I mean, there are so many masajid in different parts of the world. If you've seen a documentary about my hometown, Lanzhou, there are like close to 100 masajid, and people go there, people pray in their daily prayers in the masjid. They have Arabic classes in the masjid. So yeah, for the most part, the practice is quite free. And then what you hear in the news about Xinjiang and Uyghur Muslims is a region-specific geopolitical problem, which has many complications, but the media tends to oversimplify it sometimes. So we have this impression that it's targeting a religious community, but rather it's targeting a geopolitical community. So, in China, there are 56 ethnic groups, and 10 of them are Muslims. So Uyghur is one of the 10 ethnic groups, but there are 9 others. So when it comes to the practice of Islam, it's region-specific. In the area where there are more Muslims, where the Muslim population is large, the government might be more cautious. So there could be more restrictions, and in areas where there are less Muslims, or they're not as concentrated, then they may have more freedom. But generally, I mean, it's quite free in terms of your individual practice or individual worship. But when it comes to like communication, like interfaith dialogue or da'wah activities, then that could be under more surveillance and under more restrictions. Because the government considers this kind of activity more prone to be related to foreign powers, which we use a lot, the term hostile foreign powers. So they're more concerned about publications, about groups and activities that cross different regions. So in that area, there are more restrictions. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, anyone else in the live chat, you can send a comment in the live chat section so I know you're here. I'm not sure if people can actually come to this chat, or did I said something wrong? Or people are just, it's a Muslim thing, I guess. We promise and then we may not show up. Okay, so Brother Razi, if that's your name, you can ask another question if you want, since no one else is really in the chat section. Wow, I can see myself live, like this is so cool. The wonders of technology. So I guess people can see this link if they just click on it. All right. So for those of you, if there are other people, I don't know if there are. If you are, you can indicate your presence by sending something in the chat box, in the live chat, so that I can know you're here. Okay, Dhul Qarnayn. MashaAllah, what a name. Assalamu alaikum, welcome for coming. So this is a live session with the members of the channel to let you know more about me and ask questions that you may have about me. How is the quarantine now? I mean, in Hong Kong, the situation is quite well under control. Like there are more than 7 million people here, and we have about 1,000 cases in total. And for the past 28 days, there were only like 4 cases or 6. So it's well under control, and people can gather, but I think the maximum number is 8 in public areas. And most activities are back to normal. Like people can eat in a restaurant, they go to work, they wear masks. So I think it's something about Asian culture. We are very compliant or obedient to government rules. So when the government says everyone has to wear a mask, we wear masks very diligently. So yeah, the situation is not bad here in Hong Kong. And also, I just came back from China a few weeks ago, and the situation is also quite good in China. If you have other questions, you can just feel free to type in the chat box. Yes, the masajid are open here in Hong Kong, but we're maintaining social distancing. Yani when people pray, they have to have 1 person distance between each other. So in the masajid, the masjid committee has laid out like some indications by ropes that you have to sit in, individual boxes. Stand. And yeah, we had Eid prayer in the masjid. So I think Hong Kong is one of the few places in the world where Eid prayer was allowed to happen in the masjid. But there were like capacity, so people had to line up and they have to wait for sessions. If one session is full, they have to wait for the next session. So the masajid are open, all 5 daily prayers are back to normal, but they different from normally, they only open during the prayer time, they don't open in other time. So if you go like too early, you have to wait until the gate is open. But alhamdulillah, I think it's still quite convenient for the Muslims in Hong Kong that the masajid are already open and functioning. Okay, so what about Dhul Qarnayn? You got any questions? He just sent a custom emoji, which is that's yeah, that's for members. The reason why I did this first live streaming session for members is twofold. Number one, this is a gesture of gratitude for your support. And number two, to sort of get myself familiar with how live streaming works. And I thought there would be 18 people because 18 people voted available, but apparently there are 4 now, including myself. So, but after this one, I'm gonna have like an open live session with all of the subscribers. So hopefully that will be more people. And funny story, yesterday or the day before yesterday, I was trying this live streaming function with a friend, and I accidentally made it open live streaming. And then like within 1 second, 35 people or 32 people started watching. Some even commented, and I was not ready at all. I was doing random stuff. I was eating instant noodles actually. So people saw that, and one commented, "What is this, brother?" So that was a major accident. Okay, here's another question. Do you believe every nation should prioritize foreign policy based on national interest? Sometimes it's against the Islamic teaching. Wait, did someone just wait? Okay, I'll try to answer that question. It's really not about whether I believe it should be the case or not. When it comes to how politics works, a lot of times it's out of individual control. Like a lot of time it's a mechanism that's been formed over many years. There are civilizational traits. There are many things that the Chinese government does, which is more civilizational than political, in the sense that it's something that the Chinese people tend to do instead of the Communist Party tends to do. So it's really hard to comment on whether a specific polity is entirely correct or not, because there are so many factors at play. But when it comes to Sometimes it's against the Islamic teaching, but that's what happens when we are ruled over by non-Muslims. And funny story, I have an Egyptian friend who came to Hong Kong to work, and before he came, he asked a sheikh, because there seems to be this fatwa that Muslims cannot migrate from Muslim countries to non-Muslim countries. So he asked the sheikh, can I go to Hong Kong and work? The sheikh said, you can go anywhere. There's no Muslim country in the world anymore. There's no Muslim country in the world. In the sense that there are countries with majority Muslim population, but there's no country that is entirely ruled by the Sharia, entirely upholding the principles of Islam from the fundamental sources. So we have no state, and then naturally, national policies would deviate from Islamic teachings, and that's just what happens. But even in the early times, even if you look at the Khulafa al-Rashidun, the early Muslims, they also had struggles with politics. The Sunni Shia difference at first was a political difference. So politics is a human condition. It's never going to be easy to deal with. There will always be struggles and problems regarding politics. So whether a nation prioritizes its ideology or religion or national interest is not really one person's say. It's dependent on a lot of issues. But in order to understand how politics works, we have to not only know the conditions of the country, of the people, the history, the regional factors, the economy, a lot of things. So we can never say black or white that, okay, this state is more Islamic, the other is not. It really depends on which aspect you're talking about. So to acknowledge the nuances in human problems is a part of true scholarship and true wisdom. The scholars of fiqh, the fuqaha, they really demonstrated this. They would never say this is good or bad. They would rarely say this is good or bad. Rather, they would say this is good for you, or for this place, or in this condition, or under such circumstances. So they would consider the detailed factors, and we should do so as well. When we comment on a country or a policy or a phenomenon, we should consider the different factors and look at it more comprehensively. So hopefully that answers your question. And wow, no one else coming to this live session. So how am I keeping myself focused these days? What do you think is important to prioritize? I don't know if it's really hard to focus. I think you're talking about the information explosion and the plentifulness, is that a word? Plentifulness of distractions in the world. So how do we focus? One is that we actually have to determine to discipline ourselves. For example, I have an Egyptian friend who deleted Facebook because it's too much distraction, and according to him, it's very beneficial to do that. Once Sheikh Omar Hussein from the US came to Hong Kong for a summer camp, and on the first day of the summer camp, he asked us to delete all of our social media apps except one. Like, you only need one. For most people, you only need one because the others will be redundant. If you use it as a source of information and communication, the one does all the job. Why do you need another one? So he asked us to delete all the apps except one. And so sometimes we have to be harsh with our nafs. We have to sort of discipline our nafs, ourself, so that we can be more focused. And also, I remember, I don't remember which scholar said, but in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described shaitan as al-waswasi, al-khannas, two properties of shaitan. He is whispering all the time, and he is khannas, he retreats sometimes. But when does he retreat? The scholar said, إِذَا غَفَلَ وَسْوَاسِ وَإِذَا ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ khannas. Whenever a person is heedless, right, he is not conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he forgets about his purpose in life, he doesn't know what he's doing, then the shaitan starts whispering. But whenever he remembers Allah, the shaitan will retreat. So that's why we have the Hisnul Muslim, the fortress of Muslims. That's why we have so many daily adhkar, different awrad in our daytime to connect us with our fundamental purpose. So this is very important. I think to be focused means that you know what you're doing and you know where you're going. So that's the theoretical part. And the practical part for me, when I just entered university, I had this problem. Like all of a sudden you have such flexibility and freedom, which you didn't have in high school. You can decide where to go and what to do. So what I eventually found out to be very helpful is to keep a journal, just a notebook where you would write down what you plan to do in this day. And it has to be realistic. It cannot be too many goals, right? A to-do list that is realistic, and that is SMARTY. Have you heard of the SMARTY goals? SMARTY stands for specific, measurable, I think. And A is for, what is A for? I don't remember. And T is for time bound, and I is for inshallah. So basically, you have to have goals that are achievable and are very specific and are time bound and are measurable, so that you can feel a sense of productivity and a sense of progress every day, so you can keep pushing yourself further, inshallah. So hopefully that answers your question. And also, yeah, what do you think is important to prioritize? That's a very good question. That is, hikmah. Hikmah literally means to put something where it belongs. So where should we put most of our effort and where should we put less of our effort? That is a matter of hikmah, a matter of wisdom. So I think it depends on, you have to do a thorough analysis of yourself, what kind of a person you are. You have to do a thorough analysis of your environment and your conditions and your resources, and to decide what you should do so that you can maximize your potential and achieve the most amount of beneficial work. The best people are the most beneficial to people. So that's one theme to think about. How can I benefit people? And also, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. So I think of this as an outline of what Muslims should prioritize. You are the best nation extracted from mankind. You command what is ma'ruf, the known, which is the good. You command people to do good, you forbid people from evil, and you believe in Allah. And of course, in order to do this, you need to know what is good and what is munkar, what is not good. And you need to understand your faith in order to let yourself and other people deepen their faith. So I think I use this as a way to prioritize my things. Fit your daily activities into these categories. Is this commanding the good? Is this forbidding the evil? And is this about the faith in Allah and our religion? So yeah, if you read the Quran, you will find a lot of frameworks like this, which you can use to help yourself prioritize things. And also, كل يعمل على شاكلته. Every person should work according to his shakila, his characteristics, his predisposition. So analyze yourself and then prioritize your things according to what you're good at, what you should do, and also your stage of life. If you are at a student stage, which I consider myself still in, then I should focus on studying, right? There was a time, just 1 year ago, I used to be very concerned about money. I used to be anxious that I'm not making as much money as others. But my mom told me, it's not the concern of your age yet. Okay, right now you focus on studying. That's something to be concerned about afterward. And I found that to be quite wise. So hopefully that answers the question of Aurin. Please make more videos about Muslim history of China. See, the thing is, the history of Muslims in China is something that most Chinese Muslims are not even familiar with. Because Chinese Muslims have historically always been a minority group and has always been a very introverted group. We're different from Muslims in many parts of the world. We're not so expressive. If you look at American Muslims, the percentage of American Muslims is even smaller, I believe, than the Chinese Muslims. I think it's like 2% or something. But they are very expressive. They are very engaging in public spheres, in public discourse. The Chinese Muslims are different. We are very introverted. We're not so much concerned about, people outside of the group. So that's why we have these ethnic groups. For example, I'm among the Hui. And a lot of the Hui Muslims, think of their ethnicity as more, attaching more belonging than the religious identity. And whether that is correct or not, whether that is good or not, is another whole topic. But that is the historical reality. A lot of people think of themselves as Hui or Uyghur or Bao'an or Kazakh earlier than they consider themselves Muslims. So that's why, when you talk about the Muslim history of China, a lot of people are not familiar with it. We haven't been very expressive. We don't talk about it a lot. It's something among the scholars of history. There are books about this, but only the scholars, only the academics would read these books. So even I myself, I only know like a big picture of the history, and I may not be familiar with the details. But inshallah, I'll try to make more videos about history of Muslims in China. But I hope you can understand that it's something that requires a lot of research. Okay, if you're affected by the restrictions of COVID-19 pandemic, what is your main lessons learned from our online Eid celebration this year? I think this is something that a lot of scholars have already talked about, the inspirations from this whole pandemic, this whole incident. It's something really, my grandfather is 78 years old, and he said, I've never seen anything like this to this scale. And in terms of its global impact, he said, I've never seen anything like this. So we can learn a lot from this whole virus situation. And when it comes to Ramadan, I think I made a video about the blessing of Ramadan under lockdown, under quarantine. Because traditionally, when Ramadan comes, people who are more practicing, they go to the masjid, they have iftar together, they pray tarawih, they listen to those, and those who are not so practicing stay at home. So there's this gap, this division between the practicing ones and the less so practicing ones, and the gap only becomes larger in Ramadan. But this year, families stay together, right? So that one family member who is very serious about religion can have a chance, an opportunity to not only talk about the importance of practice, but also to demonstrate to his family members. And I've seen this happening, subhanAllah, among Chinese Muslims, I know people who don't pray. Maybe their father or their mother pray. But in this Ramadan, because they're all together, so they're like a family circle is formed. So they would study together, they would learn the deen together, they would practice together. So that's actually a blessing in this special circumstances. And also another benefit is it really serves as a reminder of the value of ibadat. Sometimes people think of ibadat worship as burdens, like it's something that's hard for you to keep up with. But rather this year, when the masajid are closed, people started realizing the sweetness of going to masajid, the sweetness of praying in congregation, the sweetness of remembering Allah in a place of barakah. So now, look at the videos when the masajid are open in Saudi Arabia. I think Sheikh Mohammed Al-Luhaydan, he couldn't continue when he was reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Right? He stopped at إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, and he couldn't continue. Perhaps for the first time, for many people, we started realizing the tremendous blessing of being able to worship Allah. It is really an opportunity that Allah only gives to people who are blessed. It's not something that you should take for granted. So that's one thing we can learn. And there are many other things. For example, the Sheikh Ali Hamouda has a video on Islam21c.com where he talks about Bashir ibn Nu'man mentioned that whenever there is a large-scale bala, a large-scale calamity, then it should be seen as a clear sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling humanity to go back to Him. So he said the true disaster, the real disaster, is for people to be heedless under such circumstances. Like they don't learn anything from this, then that's the true disaster. That's more serious than getting affected by the virus, spiritually speaking, right? That's death of the heart. That's death of your spirituality. So we should really contemplate upon this whole issue and try to extract lessons from it, because everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does has a reason and a wisdom behind. All right, next question. How can we forbid the bad and at the same time not interfere in the privacy of people? Well, that is a quite well-phrased question. So, in order to do this, I think you are very correct in thinking that we should have wisdom and we should consider our manners in advising people to do good and forbidding people from evil. And I've shared some stories in my previous videos about how the Sahaba and how the Salaf, the predecessors, did this. They were very considerate of the person. Even if you read a hadith, you would find that the Prophet ﷺ gives different people different advice in different ways according to who they are and what kind of people they are, right? So this requires wisdom, this requires experience, this requires familiarity with the sunnah of the scholars. So if you read the biography of the scholars, especially the early scholars, you would find that they have such wisdom. So this is something that we need to learn in order to be able to do. So the general principle, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Yassiru wa la tu'assiru, wasakinu wa la tunaffiru." Make things easy for people, don't make it hard, and make people peaceful. Give people sakina, make people peaceful, and don't chase them away, don't scare them away. So this is the general principle. We want people to quit what is bad, and we should be confident in the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he says something is bad for you, we have confidence that it is bad for you, right? Alcohol is bad for you. Don't argue with me about the benefits of alcohol. Allah said, yes, there are benefits, but the harm is more than the benefit. So we are confident in the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but in terms of the way we communicate such rulings and give people nasiha, then we should go back to that principle, make things easy for people. Sometimes it's a step-by-step process. It's a progressive. You have to build the foundation of Tawheed first, maybe make him love the deen first. And this is something, inshallah, on the 12th of June, I will have a talk in Hong Kong about what we can learn from the order of revelation of the Quran. So I'll post that video afterward as well, inshallah. You can watch that video, which I will talk about how the Quran emphasized Tawheed first in its 23 years of revelation. And in terms of action, behavior, adab, daily routine, it is after 13 years, mostly in the Madani period, telling people what to do, what not to do. Because when people have that strong foundation of sami'na wa ata'na, we heard, we obeyed, then inshallah they will do the things that they are required to do without much resistance. So inshallah, I'll talk about that later, and hopefully that answers your question to some extent. Yeah, the hadith that says a person's iman is manifested by him leaving what doesn't concern him. Ma la ya'ni, I think it is in the hadith, to leave what doesn't concern you. But we have to understand that evil and wrong practice and bad habits of people do concern us. It is not something that's none of our business. This is the Western idea. What I do is none of your business. This is the Western idea of what is it called? Individualism and individual liberalism, actually. That as long as I'm not harming anyone, as long as I'm not doing anybody harm, then it's my business. I can do whatever I want. That's the mostly American idea. But if you look at Dr. Jonathan Brown's description of human rights, Dr. Jonathan Brown is a associate professor at the Georgetown University. He's also a researcher at the Yaqeen Institute. He has a whole series of papers about human rights, I believe. And he talked about, what do you mean by harm, right? If you are if you're committing an act of crime and disobedience to God, you are sort of undermining the society and its moral principles in some way, to some extent. So that's also harming me. The harm might not be direct. I may not sense your harm immediately, but there is a harm. So in that sense, to not interfere with other people's business doesn't mean you don't care about what they do at all. We do care about what people do. We have that moral obligation of calling people to what is good and advising people to leave the bad. So, Islam is not a religion of just be a saint to yourself and forget about others. Rather, Islam is very concerned about communal obligation, what you do to others, what you care about among others. So inshallah, we should make the distinction here. To not interfere with other people's business, is to not, for example, Allah said, وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا, don't investigate into people's secrets, right? If they have something secret, don't ask people about it. Don't try to find out what he's up to. But if something is shown, is manifest, and then you have the moral responsibility of correcting a bad behavior and advising him or her to the good. So we have to make the distinction here, inshallah. Any other questions? So these are the 4 people. Wait, did they just leave? Is it only 1 people now? What is the first thing you say to deliver a message to a non-believer, and how do you consider you delivered the message correctly? So when it comes to da'wah, obviously you need to have a strong storage of knowledge first. You can't tell people the truth before you understand the truth to a satisfactory extent. So da'wah does require some prerequisites. People quote the hadith, "Ballighu anni walau ayah," convey for me even if it's 1 ayah. But the condition is you understand the ayah, you understand the ins and outs and the implications and applications of the ayah. So first of all, in order to do da'wah, to deliver the message to a disbeliever or to a non-Muslim, we have to first have that storage of knowledge. We have to develop ourselves so that we're capable of doing so. And then there's a sequence. Okay, so if you look at IERA is an organization in the UK that is working mostly in the field of da'wah, spearheaded by Brother Hamza Zortis. He has this sequence called Go Rap. Okay, it doesn't mean you go and rap with people, but Go Rap means God's existence, oneness, revelation, and prophets. So this is the sequence. We tell people about God's existence first. If a person doesn't even believe in a transcendental, unique being and reality, if a person doesn't believe in God, then you shouldn't talk about the Islamic history, Islamic finance, the benefits of zakat. That's too far away. Make the person believe that there is a God first. And that's actually in human fitrah. That's in human nature. It doesn't require much convincing. If you quote the good examples, you ask the right questions, most people will come to the conclusion by themselves, there is a God. And the oneness, right, tawheed, that God is one and uniquely one, and there's nothing like him. That is the fundamental belief, Qul huwallahu ahad. So that's if people do believe there's one God, and then you move on to revelations. If God is one and God created human beings, of course he will tell us what's our purpose. He wouldn't just create something for no purpose. And this is also in the Quran. Do you think I created you for play and you will not return to us? Like, you think you have no purpose? To tell people that there is a purpose, there are revelations. And then prophets. How will the revelation be conveyed? Through prophets. So that's the general sequence. And how do you consider yourself delivered the message correctly? This is, we have to understand that our duty, وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا بَلَاغٌ مُبِينٌ. Our duty is only to make a clear conveyance, clear delivery. So we just tell people whether they accept or not is not in your hand at all. The Prophet ﷺ was told, إِنَّكَ لَن تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You will not be able to guide whoever you love, and Allah guides whoever He wants. So don't be disappointed if somebody didn't accept the message, as long as you delivered the message correctly, with evidence, with clarity, then inshallah your job is done. The rest is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But of course, this also comes with practice. So if you want to do da'wah, and actually, the best da'wah, scholars always say, is your action. If people see that you are a good person, there are many examples like this. In the US, there are people who accept Islam. Why? Because my neighbor, Muhammad, is a very good guy. That's it, khalas. They become Muslim just because of this good guy, Muhammad. So it doesn't have to be a knowledge-based, conversation. It can be just your good actions, your good adab. So there are many ways of delivering the message, and have a good intention, ask Allah for help, quote only authentic and correct knowledge. Then inshallah, it will be in your skill of good deeds, inshallah. Can you comment on Trump leadership, especially handling COVID and the current racial riot across America? Well, I'm not an American, so I don't know. I can't say much. A person came to Imam Malik, rahmahullah, and asked him 40 questions. And Imam Malik answered 4. This person is from Al-Maghrib, from Morocco. And the other 36, Imam Malik said, La adri, I don't know, because I'm not from your place. I'm not from Morocco. I don't know about your circumstances and your social environment. He says, go back and ask the scholars there. So as a Chinese person, although I'm quite acquainted with American culture in some way, that doesn't give me the right to comment on the social reality of the United States and Trump leadership. I mean, our vision is limited. We only see what the media tells us. So I really understood this point from my own experience, because people comment on the Chinese president and the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese government all the time without knowing really like what life is like in China and what Chinese people think about the leadership or the regime or the political system. So I feel like I feel it's unfair for foreigners to comment recklessly on my country. I think that Americans would feel the same. So inshallah, I would rather be humble and reserve my thoughts about a different country. Of course, there are comments you can make, there are judgments you can make based on your observation, but there's no guarantee your judgment is entirely correct. So is Trump a bad leader? In many ways, yes. There are many traits of him that are really, beyond reason. Like we can't understand how a leader can do such things or behave in such ways. But he's not stupid. He knows how to manipulate people in order to strengthen his authority, and this happened over and over again. There's a very good discussion on Oxford Union between Dr. Jonathan Brown and an Arab scholar, I forgot the name of. They talk about Islam and politics, and they said, leaders across the world, they know how to use not only religion, but like a pandemic like this can be a tool for politicians, and all sorts of phenomena can be used by politicians as tools to benefit their interest. So, and what about the racial riot across America? Well, that's another whole large topic. There's so much that we can talk about, but for that, I would recommend you read the autobiography of Malcolm X. That's one of my favorite books, and you can learn so much about racial relations and also politics and American history and so many other things from that book. So just go and read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and inshallah, we can learn a lot from that. Can you provide tips on how I build this habit to reflect on ayah according to our situation? Yeah, so this is something that the early Muslims knew were very, very important to our life, to connect the divine teaching, the Quran and Ahadith, to our life. I think you've heard of the story, when the Prophet ﷺ passed away, Omar couldn't accept the fact, most of the believers couldn't accept the fact that they couldn't comprehend how such a man can die, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Abu Bakr recited the ayah, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَى أَعْقَابِكُمْ وَمَنْ يَنقَلِبْ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَنْ يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ شَيْئًا وَاللَّهُ يَجْزِي الشَّاكِرِينَ وَسَيَجْزِي اللَّهُ الشَّاكِرِينَ. So he recited the ayah that says Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is only a messenger. Before him, many messengers have passed away. If he passes away or is killed in battle, will you turn back on your heels? Will you leave this religion? And those who turn their back will not harm Allah at all, but Allah will reward the thankful. So when he recited this ayah, everyone was like, SubhanAllah. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, we all felt it's the first time we heard this ayah. But it's not the first time they heard the ayah. They were scholars of the Quran. Ibn Abbas was called Al-Bahr, the ocean, for his vast knowledge. They've heard this ayah before. But why did they say it's like the first time we heard this ayah? Because they related it for the first time to their life experience. Previously, the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was something that probably never crossed their mind, right? So this is something that we should do constantly in our life, to read the Quran over and over again. And never think that once I've memorized the Quran, okay, I know it already. No, you have to go back over and over again. So that's why we should have a daily habit of reading the meaning of the Quran. If you don't understand Arabic, then read the translation and then contemplate, tadabbur. This is, according to Allah, this is the purpose of the Quran, so that people can do tadabbur, contemplation, reflection, and thinking, and relate it to their life experience. So this comes with practice, this comes with knowledge. So if we put it to practice every day, inshallah, we'll see a change in our life. Okay, so this brother, Traveler Word, has been in Beijing last year. One of my friends, he's working with me, he's a Chinese Muslim. He said to me, I'm Muslim, but I'm not practicing. Yeah, so what's your question? That's a statement. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah ya Abdul Rahman, kayfa haluk? Should we seek knowledge before learning Arabic or learning Arabic is first? Okay, so sometimes in our time, people are shy to say that Arabic is the language of Islam, but it is. No scholar ever denied that Arabic is the language of Islam because it is the language of our Prophet ﷺ. It is the language of our revelation, our wahi. So we should all study Arabic. All Muslims should make an effort to study Arabic. Whether you can study it well and to what extent can you manage to speak it or understand it is another issue. That's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether He gives you tawfiq or not. But we should all make that effort. If we can all learn English in order to increase our worldly position and status, to have a good job, we make so much effort in learning English. Why can't we do the same for our akhirah? Why don't we study Arabic? So we should all study Arabic, and whether that should be first, it depends on your situation. It depends on whether you have good resources. I think if you are able to find good resources, then learning Arabic first and then seek knowledge would be a more efficient way. Although for a lot of people, maybe it's not either or situation. Sometimes you can learn Arabic and at the same time learn Islamic knowledge in English or in your mother tongue at the same time. But as you learn more Arabic, inshallah, you also sort of refresh your understanding of the knowledge you learned in other languages. But to learn Arabic is very important, and it should be a priority for us in our journey of learning Islamic knowledge. For example, in Zaytuna College, they actually require a certain level of Arabic before admission. So without being able to speak Arabic, you won't even be admitted to the college, let alone learning other subjects. So inshallah, we should learn Arabic language. Any other questions? How to convince non-practicing Muslim to practice? There are many ways to do that. I've already mentioned earlier that you can attract somebody to the deen by your good behavior, and you can share knowledge, and you can be friendly with that person first, right? The companionship is very important. A lot of people, among the Sahaba, they became great Muslims because they were with the Prophet ﷺ all the time. So they robbed off that excellence, that ihsan, from the most excellent human being. So if you are an excellent human being and you offer that companionship with such brothers, such friends, then inshallah, they will also rub off the deen from you. So, there's a hadith that says a good companion is like a perfume seller. You stay with the perfume seller, even if you will become fragrant as well. And if you stay with the blacksmith, either your clothes will be burnt or you will have, ashes on you as well. So I think to invite our non-practicing Muslim brothers and sisters, the best way is to give them companionship so that they feel drawn towards you. And then you can become a source of guidance and a source of transmission of beneficial knowledge to them, inshallah. Any other questions? I think I'm going to end this live video in about 10 minutes. All right. Am I thinking about doing my own Chinese Dao organization? Well, I do have a small team already. I have a WeChat official account that has close to 27,000 subscribers. And we translate articles. I also write articles by myself. We have audio sharings, video sharings. We translate videos, add subtitles to them. So we're already doing this, and there are many teams in Hong Kong that are doing this, especially using WeChat official accounts, because we have relatively less social media platforms, and even with the, you know, with some platforms there are restrictions. For example, on TikTok, like religious topics are sort of sensitive topic, and you may not be allowed to publish video when you talk about religion. And inshallah, we do have such a team, and we're already doing some work. So please make dua and also support us if you can, in all kinds of ways, financially, by solidarity, sharing knowledge, whatever. So I'm doing this already, inshallah, and I want to, in the future, I would also want to dedicate more efforts to this work. So many people have told me that, brother, Chinese people are very friendly, very good, well-mannered, good people. But they like guidance. There are not enough people calling them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about how great it would be if such hardworking, well-mannered people pursue the hereafter and work for the akhirah. How great would it be? So I agree with them. So inshallah, I would want to dedicate more efforts in doing this. Do I have a charity organization as well? There are many charity organizations in China, and there are many channels of doing charity, like especially in Ramadan. I think it's a universal phenomenon. People would start fundraising for different good causes. There are kindergartens, Muslim kindergartens. There are Muslim schools and teachers, and people would financially support them. And also people would support, for example, WeChat official accounts that do da'wah like mine, like many others, platforms where people can get to know about Islam more. So yeah, there are many channels like this. How can you become a member? I was thinking about publishing a video during Ramadan and do a fundraiser, basically ask people of my channel to help with the dawah work in China. But then I thought about it, we're not really spending too much money yet. There's not a lot of expenses because it's mostly like articles, texts, and audios, which don't require a lot of equipment. But inshallah, we are planning to upgrade our service and our work to a more professional level, to make videos, good videos, and things like that. So when there are more expenses, inshallah, I would, reach out to my YouTube community and maybe ask for help. But if you are right now, if you are willing to help, and of course there are small expenses here and there, we also want to give some compensation and honorarium for the people who help us translate, and people like this. So if you do want to help right now, you can. There are links to my PayPal account. You can do that. And inshallah, we will use the money to where it benefits the Muslims in China and fi sabilillah, inshallah. Professional organization in China. There are organizations like this in Hong Kong. Yeah, there's certain Islam team. Some of the video I shared are talks I've done at certain Islam team. There's Muslim Council of Hong Kong. There are organizations like this, but in China, it's more covert. It's more underground, if you know what I mean. People do this kind of work more secretly because there are more challenges in China, and we don't want to sort of confront and make more trouble for ourselves. So we learn to be more, slick in our approach to dawah. So you may not find, like a very outspoken organization like this in China that does dawah or Islamic charity. And also, the Chinese government is very concerned about hostile foreign powers. So if we are too close with foreigners, for example, if we have connection with this brother said an Indian organization, let's say there's an Indian organization that would want to donate a sum of money to help with dawah in China, this can be considered a terrorist activity. The Chinese government may just, accuse you of accepting money from a terrorist organization and instigating terrorism in China, and there could be a lot of troubles, and this has happened in China before. So we are very cautious when it comes to accepting help from foreigners. I've had brothers from Malaysia who has a Dawah organization. He said, I want to support you financially. And I said, well, I really thank you for your intention, but such formal transaction from organization to organization could be quite dangerous to me and my team in China. So that's why, a personal help would be safer as far as I'm concerned. So that's why I left my PayPal account on my WeChat channel. So when people donate to me, that's more of a personal transaction, not from an organization to our organization. So that way we can avoid some troubles, inshallah. Secularism in Islam was a hard issue in my country these years. Somehow now it's slightly come down because of Corona. How about China? Which country are you from, brother? And that Haytham al-Andalus, where are you from? Is it possible to meet me? Sure. I mean, I go to a lot of places. Alhamdulillah, I've been to 12 countries. And if there's opportunity, I would like to go to your place and you can come to Hong Kong. You're more than welcome to come and meet me. My slogan is to be a bridge that connects. So I would be happy to meet people. All right, so that's why you're called Al-Andalus. So yeah, Spain is a country I haven't been to, but inshallah, I do want to visit if there is an opportunity, if there is a local guide, if you're willing to show me around, then inshallah, if there's a chance, I can go. So secularism in Islam, I don't know what you mean exactly by that, but if you mean that Muslims are becoming less serious and practicing of their religion, that is true in every country, I think. That's just how the world functions now. Secularism is the dominant mainstream culture. And this is something that we're, as Muslims, not strange. We're not unaware of, because we have been foretold by the Prophet ﷺ that in the later times, when it's close to Yawm al-Qiyamah, people would have al-wahn. He said, Muslims will have al-wahn. The Sahaba asked, what is al-wahn? He said, حُبُّ الدُّنْيَا وَكَرَاهَةُ الْمَوْتِ. Al-wahn is love of the dunya and hating death. So when we think of this word as the primary and biggest concern, that's a sign of the last days, and it's been prophesied. It will happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said, كَثِيرٌ مِنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَقَلِيلٌ مِنَ الْآخِرِينَ. The excellent worshippers, the true sabiqun, the people who are forerunners, there are a lot in the early generations and few in the later generations. The Prophet ﷺ also told us every generation among my ummah will be worse than the previous generation in terms of the religious practice. So this is something that we are aware of, and this is something that is bound to happen. So we shouldn't be overly worried. We do what we can, and we will not be burdened by what is beyond our capacity, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wise and merciful. Do you have any upcoming event anywhere around the world? Please let us know. I'm mostly in Hong Kong. I'm not like a famous international speaker yet. I'm still a student at a very beginner level, and inshallah, I'm right now doing my master's degree. And inshallah, after I finish my master's, I plan to go abroad and continue studying. Maybe in 20 years there will be an event somewhere, and I'll let you know, inshallah. Okay, so I'm about to, I think, end this live session in about 3 minutes. So if you have any other questions, feel free to voice them out before I end. Abdul Rahman is very professional in using my stickers. How to contact me? You can find on the channel information on YouTube. You can find my email, you can find my Instagram and my Facebook page. You can message me on Instagram or on Facebook page, or you can email me, and I will see your message, inshallah. Okay, I just want to keep it like so 1 minute left, last 1 minute. All right, alhamdulillah. Anything of benefit is from the mercy and guidance of Allah. Anything that I've said wrong is from shaitan and my own shortcomings. May Allah forgive me, and also I hope you can forgive my mistakes. And Jazakumullah khairan for taking time out and attending this live session. And hopefully may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us love each other for the sake of Allah and keep the Muslims united and help each other in what is good, and always correct our behaviors and always guard our heart and our actions. And yeah, hopefully, I hope you will attend next time as well. But next time, inshallah, it will be public. So all of the subscribers, all 70,000 people will be invited to join. It could be more chaotic. This one is for you guys only. So hope you enjoyed it. And please make dua for me so that I can make more beneficial videos, so that I can do beneficial things more efficiently and effectively. Remember me in your dua, and I pray that you and your families will be protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So that's it. All right. Jazakumullah khairan. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.